I'm with Horn Auto Group. I am located in Gilbert, Arizona. This is actually going to be my 28th year in automotive. I've done a little bit of everything. Grew up in Nebraska, moved out here, and let's see, I've been a sales manager, a finance manager, an internet director, a GSM, a GM, and I've been in the corporate role since 2018. I've been with NCM in the 20M2 20 group for 2-ish years and love it. Have an amazing group. I'm very, very blessed. Went to work for a bank in Omaha, in the Omaha metro area. And that particular bank bought all the loans at the car dealerships. Now, this was back before they even faxed over applications. This is when the bank, they still showed up from the dealership with loan applications at the bank, and we sat around to determine, what got done, what didn't get done. This was the point that I started to learn about the car dealership. I knew nothing about car dealerships. I didn't grow up in the car dealership. I'm not from a family of car dealerships. And so at that particular time, I started to realize that might be a really good career. So I started asking questions and kind of learning about it, and then moved to Arizona. When I got to Arizona, I just knew, I was like, I want to do the car biz thing. So I showed up at a car dealership and I said, hey, I want to go into the finance department. And they laughed at me and they said, yeah, it doesn't really work that way. But I was scared to death of commission only sales because I had bills to pay. I didn't have family. I didn't have anybody else that could help me with my bills. So I was a little nervous about that. So I actually worked in the office and did some selling on the side and started to learn and back up the finance department on when they needed help, and just was able to do a lot of different jobs and wear a lot of different hats at this dealership because it was a smaller dealership. It was a Cadillac, Oldsmobile, Hummer, and Saab dealership. So it was a little bit smaller, gave me the opportunity to learn a lot. Kind of got an opportunity, a rare opportunity to get into the finance department because as the only person who knew how to do anything, we had one finance director who was going on maternity leave and the other one quit at the same time. So they had nobody. So by default, I got to kind of slide in probably earlier than most get to in that issue. However, talk about earning my stripes and earning them fast. I worked the next 3 months, 7 days a week, bell to bell. No days off, just had to grind it out and figure it out. Learned a lot. It was amazing. After that dealership, I was there for about 5 years, and then I went to a Toyota store. Was in the finance department there. So all in all, I did 8 years in the box, and then transitioned to the sales desk. That was very difficult to get to the sales desk, especially at that time. I mean, still today, there's very few women on the sales desk. You'll see a decent amount in finance, but you just don't see that many on the sales desk. So I really had to fight to get that opportunity. But once I did, I spent 7 years on the retail desk. And then I had a general manager at one of my stores who said, April, I keep hiring internet people and they can't sell. You can sell. I need you to go learn the internet. And I thought, oh boy, I think you got the wrong girl, because I was the person who, even my dad would call me and say, hey, I sent you an email, check your email, or, this type of thing. I was the last person to get a smartphone. I was the last person to upgrade. And I thought, okay, y'all are crazy. Done bumped your head. But I also knew that if I wanted to grow in this industry, that's the direction that it was going. So I said, okay, I'm up for the challenge. I'm going to make this work. I went into the internet department, and they had their best month, my first month there. We just grew and skyrocketed. And so I started to really enjoy and love building those internet teams, because I knew something they didn't know. And everyone asked me, April, what's the secret sauce? And I said, the secret sauce is simple. You just do the same steps of the sale in the internet department. Where most internet departments fail is they skip the meet and greet, sell yourself, sell the dealership. They go right to either the test drive or right to, numbers, and they forget that building rapport aspect. So I just sprinkled that in, and that really makes all the difference. Fast forward, from there, I knew that I wanted to get into upper management. So I took a GSM role at a job. And after that, the Horns actually reached out to me. they were talking to me about, a GM role. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And I kind of told them about the job I have now. I said, I think this is what I want to do. And they said, okay, well, you come in and prove to us you can do all these things, and we'll see. And 8 months later, they moved me into this role. So a year later, I was a general manager for them for a while because they had a general manager that bowed out. So I've done a little bit of everything through my almost 28 years of doing this. There's definitely a stereotype, and those stereotypes still exist, but they are so much better today than they were 10 years ago. And they're so much better today than they were 20 years ago. So while there's still, some egomaniac, stereotypical kind of things, I would say that it is so much better. So I like to focus on the positive, on how far we've come, and not so much the negative of, yes, there is still a little bit of that, because I think you get that in any industry. Quite frankly, walk into a business office at any dealership across the country, and you will see that women can be just as brutal and stereotypical as men can be, and sometimes worse, right? They can be sometimes more cutthroat, and they can be sometimes more catty and backstabby and those sort of things. I definitely think that it's hard sometimes for women to assimilate when you're the only one. It's, you get that good old boys club, and they're talking to, they're going to go golfing together, and they go do things together, and you're kind of left out of some of that. And that can be difficult to kind of deal with. I will say also that women tend to be better salespeople by nature. And the men's ego, I had a general manager who literally would tell the other sales managers at the time, is when I was on the desk, "Oh, you're going to let this 90-pound girl whoop your butt? Shame on you." And so that made it almost worse. So now they would gang up on me, and it made it a man female thing versus making it just sales against sales. And so those things were difficult, and not having women champions definitely, I've had a lot of conversations with women in this industry over the last few years, and you realize during those early years that sometimes you were just a flying monkey. You just had to follow the big bad witch and just do whatever it was you had to do to survive. So I think, there's definitely a period of my life that was survival mode, and you just get through it, But on the other side of that, I'm blessed that I went through it, because what that means now is that my strength comes from trials and tribulations. You cannot have rainbows without storms. So that is just something that I truly believe in. So anytime I'm going through a storm, I just go, hey, this just means a brighter, better rainbow on the other side. And if you look at it like that, I think it's just a lot easier. Now, did have an amazing transition happen for me in 2019. In 2019, I went to my first Women in Automotive conference. And I met some amazing women who I became very good friends with. And that was, when you hit those crossroads in your life and you look back and you say, hey, when did my life suddenly take this other trajectory? And that was the moment for me that it happened, because I used to go to conferences by myself. I used to sit by myself. As a woman in a dealership, I knew that perception is reality. So I did not allow myself to be put in situations that the bad perception could be there. So now going to conferences and knowing other women, that changed everything. I was able to, go out and spend time and get introduced to people and collaborate with people. And from there, that's what started me into being able to go out and speak and be on podcasts and, meet amazing people like Ashley with NCM and all of these things. That's where all of that kind of grew from and started from. So I cannot underestimate the power of women collaborations and really coming together to help. And it doesn't necessarily have to be inside the dealership, because there's very few, right? I work at a car dealership group that we have 14 stores. We have 0 women in our sales management. 0. I'm it. So we have some women in finance, and we have a couple, we have a service director. And so it just happens that we don't have any in sales management. So it can be kind of a lonely place if you don't have these outward resources. So, Clubhouse and LinkedIn and some of these other places, along with NCM 20 groups, I think is a really good place to find your tribe. And your tribe doesn't always necessarily have to be in the same walls that you reside. My 20 group is an amazing 20 group, first and foremost, but David Kane reached out to me directly and said, hey, I think you'd be really great in one of our 20 groups. And at the time they were just splitting off the 20M2 and the 20M1. So I showed up literally like a few weeks later in Lexington for their 20 group, because that's where it was in that particular time, to get voted in. The thing that was immediate to me that I was just blown away by, I have never walked into an automotive space and the majority of the people in the room were women. This was the first time that I've ever, in 28 years, walked into an automotive anything and the majority of the people in the room were women. So my 20 group is comprised somewhere in the neighborhood, I would say 70+% are women in my 20 group. And that is so amazing and refreshing. It's just, I'm used to being the only one. Like sometimes I feel like the mascot, right? Like the token female mascot. And so it was really, really refreshing. And there are just so many different personalities, so many different strengths, so many different ways for me to learn from them. And learning from women is a little different. Like there's a different collaboration style, I think, that comes from it. But you find women who are so like you. I think women in automotive, we just have this different personality. And I think that it just really shines, and it's really fun when you're like, I'm not an oddball. There are other people who share your thought processes and things of that nature, and that's just so refreshing to find. One thing I think that's really important for women outside of finding a community, regardless of whether it's a 20 group or if your group won't let you go to a 20 group, and sometimes that's the case, there's plenty of Clubhouses or LinkedIn or different outlets to go reach out to women. Never be afraid to reach out to other women, to ask for advice, to build community and relationships that way. But also fight the good fight. At the end of the day, don't let them push you out. Don't think that you don't belong. Don't think that there's this imposter syndrome thing that women have innately. I think it's a core value, almost not a value, but a core part of women. And I think that women just need to really understand and own their value, and don't let people kick you around.